We are the Keyboard Samurai, a podcast focused on sharing insights to help those working in cybersecurity companies, be them technology or services. Each session, your host, Will Klusovsky, aka Will Clue, sits down with professionals in our industry to illuminate topics that will help your security biz, team, or self be better. Let's hack into it now. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Another exciting episode. I'm sure you're all going to be thrilled. I've got Joe here with us today. Joe, why don't you go ahead and say who you are, tell us who you are, why we care.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, really appreciate you inviting me on, Will. Super excited for this. So my name's Joe, Joe Head, and I'm the founder of Molto. So yeah, looking forward to chatting all about it.
Yeah, like it's specifically like CISO recruiting and prep kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, so I used to have, so it's actually a bit of a story, which I'm sure we can come into, right?
Yeah.
But this is kind of the second phase of what I thought my business was when I first started, and it's kind of now morphed into what it is today, right? So when I first started a business, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. So I did what, I don't know, crazy decision, right? To start a business with absolutely no real plan, but hey, it seems to be going all right. Yeah, so I started initially in January of last year, and I worked for nearly 10 years in recruiting, right? I used to recruit for CISOs right across, the US, the UK, and senior security leadership roles. It got to a point where I was like, I didn't enjoy that world anymore. It got so oversaturated. I just didn't enjoy it. And I just wanted to do something different. So I left in the January, and I effectively just sold the knowledge. I took the knowledge that was in my head and I just sold that for money, right? I was like, right, I absolutely need to make money. I didn't have a huge runway. I bootstrapped everything. It was literally like, as soon as you leave, that's it. You've got to go and make money. But where we are now today, so that's kind of morphed into, and I'm sure we can talk about it in more detail and stuff. And I'm always happy to answer questions from anyone that, DMs me around this, because what it is now is Molto is a specific, I want it to be like a full branding and marketing agency for cybersecurity founders. So, and again, there's lots to why it got to that point. And that wasn't just a random decision to not do what I was doing before. It slowly morphed.
That's how business works. We all start something thinking we know what's going to happen. And this is actually really good because that's kind of the whole point of the conversation. We all think we know what's going to happen. And I've seen this with startup product companies all the time. Like they'll come and be like, here's a product. And then after they use it for like 6 months or a year and they get client feedback, then they're like, oh, this isn't really this thing. This is now this thing.
Yeah.
Like mine did the same. My business did the same thing. And in fact, we need to probably talk offline because I think we work together. But I did the same thing. I was like, well, I know how to run a security business, so I'll help people build their security, build security practices or, grow their MSPs or whatever. But now I'm finding them like there's other things that are coming in and it's like, well, okay, maybe that's more what people need. Okay, that's fine. I'm happy to do this thing over here. So it's that you've got to pivot at some point.
Yeah. And I think like I always say to people, like I always have the saying, which is like follow the money. And I don't mean that in like the hardcore, I'm not like chasing money and being greedy. It's like,
or the conspiracy theories version of it.
Yeah. So it's like, what I mean by when I say like chase the money is like, listen to what people are asking you to do, like listen to the questions that you get. And if people are saying to you, oh, can you help with this? Can you help with this? Typically there is a business or an idea within those questions. And that's kind of how I got to where I am today, because people are saying, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? And so you just kind of go, okay, that's interesting. Maybe actually I can. You morph it into then an idea, and that idea then becomes something feasible, a feasible product or service you offer. And that's kind of been always my philosophy.
I've always kind of struggled with that too. It's like, well, there's things I can do that I just don't want to do. There's not exciting to me. And it's like, well, I can, but I was like, I'll better off doing here. But then it's similar to somebody was talking about this, something about the not, instead of chasing the money, it's listening to your clients. Like it's getting that feedback. So like for me, I talk a lot about having an actual product or services roadmap, like knowing what the hell you're doing and where you want to go, and how, and the way you determine where you're going to go is by listening to the people who are actually giving you money.
Yeah, 100%.
To make those decisions.
Yeah, I think and that's been like a big thing for me, like starting a business, and like when I speak to other people, is there's always this like this worry that, oh well, what if what I offer it people don't want to pay me for, or it's not the perfect offer, product or service. And I'm like, yeah, but if you don't offer anything, you'll never get that feedback. So you're better off just getting something, even if you think it's absolutely rubbish.
Yeah.
You're better off getting that feedback and someone going, hey, yeah, that's not very good, but here's what I would like. And actually, you, like I say, you kind of, I don't know, you go through those hoops of just iterating and finding those ideas. And yeah, like I say, I think for me, that's been a big thing, is also just having the, I'm super risky. Like, I'm really, really
I get
risky.
that from you.
Yeah, I'm basically a bit of an idiot. But some people tell me, well, actually, they wish they had a bit more idiot in them, which is quite funny, to go and do things, right? Because I don't see things as being failure. I'm just like, I just want to do it. Like, I just want to do it, and I keep doing it. And even if it is absolutely terrible, I'm just like, cool, do it again, do something different. And I'm like, I just keep going and keep going with these ideas until something, again, that's something that works.
Right.
So yeah, I'm definitely not, I'm not as smart as anywhere as near as smart as the people I work with, but maybe I'm smart in a sense
But that
that
makes you smarter by doing that.
by doing it, right? Because
Yeah.
people think that they can make this amazing business plan and they can spend a whole year building this amazing business plan and all these great ideas, and then they come to market and no one buys it because it's just not what the market wants. Whereas I've spent a whole year trying different things and iterating over and over and over and over again, and I've got to a point where things are like, okay, I've actually built something that people want now.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a big difference. There's a difference between like throwing spaghetti at the wall. That may be a very American thing to say. I don't know if you guys, beans and toast, maybe for you guys.
Yeah.
But like, there's a difference between just throwing something against the wall and then like planning too much. Like, I'm a big proponent of have a plan, but like people get so caught up in like like you said, perfecting that plan and just, thinking, oh, well, I've got to do this and do that. Like when I started all my stuff, it was the same kind of thing. I was like, and it was, like you said, like we need money at a certain point. It's like, I was like, well, I can do this, 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 and this. So it's like, all right, website, Canva, this, all right, go.
Yeah, literally.
We'll build the plane while we fly it, right? We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I like that expression. Yeah, build the plane whilst you fly it. When I first started, I had nothing, and someone gave me some really good advice, and they were like, "Okay, so what do you really need right now?" And I was like, "Yeah, I need money to pay my mortgage, pay my bills." And they're like, "Cool, go and get the money first." They were like, "Go and find someone to give you money for your idea, and then build it in the background." Like, because you can, once you've got that money, it validates that what you're doing is at least something worth something to someone, right? So I ended up just being like, hey, I can help you with X, Y, and Z. Here's what it kind of looks like. Would you be interested? And I'd have these calls and I'd say, yeah, okay, what do you want to get from it? What do you want from this? I did everything very custom and bespoke to begin with to make it feel more valuable to the client. And then eventually, once you get that money, you can then start to build and see what works.
Right. And it's not a bad, I think, and somebody who's worked at a lot of consulting firms and managed services firms, like that's kind of how you build new practice areas anyway. You get a little market research and like, okay, we think this is going to be useful. There's a pipeline for it. Clients are asking. So we're going to build a minimal viable product, right? We're going to create something and then we're going to go take it to the world and see how it works. And then, oh, okay, this is great. And you're going to, because you want those customers, like you don't care, like I don't care how customized you want it. I don't care. I'll do it. I don't care how much tailoring you want me to do. That's great. All onto it. And then as you learn, you're like, I'm kind of in a similar situation with one of my buddies I'm working with too. It's the same kind of thing. It's like, we've had enough conversations and seen enough things that we're now like, oh, this is a package. Like now we can be like, here's a box and some people can fit in it. And then that way it makes it more efficient. So it's all that product development, service development process, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think, like for anyone that, and I speak to a lot of people that want to start businesses. And I think for anyone that, like, I guess if anyone that's thinking about it, like one of the things that I took away from somewhere that I read this was that the knowledge in your head is worth like £100,000 or dollars to someone else. And whether that person is behind you in their career and you can teach on how to get to where you've got to, or it's just knowledge that you've accumulated through education and, you know, doing, it's worth something to someone. And so like, that's like, that was a really like, I don't know, that was a really interesting point that I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Like actually you kind of get to a point where you think to yourself that actually there's hundreds of thousands of people that don't know what I know. And so therefore that must be valuable to someone, right? And so that's, again, that's the part of that, like iteration and ideas. And again, I'm super risky. So I did it I would say the wrong way, but I was not in a situation to run a business by any means, right?
Well, that's probably why you're successful though. Cause like for me, like that's something that I struggled with, and lots of people I think in our industry too. I think there's a certain personality type, mentality type kind of in cybersecurity. And most of us kind of just assume everybody else around us is just as smart as we are a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I jokingly say, I've been saying the same thing for 20 years. And so I feel like everybody has to have heard it, right? But then I've gone into rooms with people and, you know, somebody asks a question and I know I can dominate a conversation and I try to sit back and nobody answers. And I'm like, do you guys not know how to tie your shoes? And everybody looks at me like I invented fire.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good takeaway for everybody. It's like, no, what you have to say is valuable. Like really think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what you have to say is valuable, and you know, like don't think that, you know, what you think is common practice and you know, is common sense, people have no idea about, right? And so, and that's a really interesting dynamic. And I think part of that is like, especially with like, if you know, lots of people suffer from like imposter syndrome and feeling like they're not, you know, they shouldn't be where they are, or they're like, well, hang on a minute, I have, you know, no idea what I'm doing, you know. There's 2 points to that, which is like, I learned that most people, when you realize that most people are living this life with not really an idea of what they're doing, things get a lot easier. But also, yeah, the idea of like, you know, the imposter syndrome. And yeah, I think it's just that realization that actually, you know, what you do know, even if it's not valuable to the people in your sphere and in your ecosystem, like, you know, your colleagues and friends or whatever it might be, it is 100% valuable to other people outside of that.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. Like, find the people who value it. It's the whole like water bottle pricing sort of story everybody tells. Like, go find the place where you can charge $8 for your water bottle.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
So what kind of like super risky, jumped in there. That's awesome. I love it. What kind of things, like what did you learn, whether early on or now, that you're kind of like, hey, you guys are thinking about doing this, here's some tidbits that I can give you so you don't trip over the same things I did.
Yeah, good question. I think one of the things we kind of touched on, but maybe I'll dive into it a little bit more, is that piece around perfection. Like, and I mean that in a way that, you know, my first business and how I made money was literally running it off Google Docs, right? It was not anything. It wasn't even what you would call a business, right? But it literally was me running meetings, you know, Google Meet meetings on Google Docs. And that, you know, it was a place I could just store information. And so I think like it's really important to know that like nobody is expecting, you know, especially in a start, things to be perfect. I mean, even my business now is not perfect. There are things that are still going wrong and things that happen, and, you know, clients get annoyed or frustrated, and it's just part of the journey. But I think if you're really thinking about starting something, start it like with absolutely nothing, and you'll soon realize that even though it's nothing, it's still really valuable to people. You know, I put all of my thoughts down into, you know, Google Docs and slides and presentations, and my word, if I look back on it now, I'd be like, this is
rubbish.
They were awful, right? They really were. They were absolutely terrible. But again, people buy, and this comes, I guess, as a tangent into the idea that people buy from people, right? People weren't buying from me, you know, they weren't purchasing from me a physical product. They wanted the knowledge in my head, and that knowledge came, it didn't matter how they consumed that, whether that was in video format, in a Google Doc, it didn't matter. They were getting what they paid for. So I think if you, and a lot of that is in cybersecurity as well, especially if you're a practitioner and you want to go into building, you know, if you're not building a product, but you're offering consultancy services or VC or something along those lines, your knowledge is what is the most valuable. So don't worry about how that's presented. Just get something as a baseline. So I definitely would say, like, try not to overthink what it looks like. And even things like logos and, And I still don't have a website. So like, and that's because I'm trying to build it myself. So I spent the last 9 months trying to perfect building a website, and
I
it's
built mine in 2 days, man. I'll show you how. Like that's
oh, there you go.
just
Yeah,
something, just slap it together.
So I don't even have a website, right? Because and that just goes to show you don't even need a website to build a business. To build a business,
it's for conversion. That's it.
Yeah, for conversion, right? And like at some point, a website will come, and one day I'll have enough money to get someone to do it nicely and make it look really professional. But yeah, if you're starting straight away, just get something down somewhere and just get your thoughts on a bit of paper or a Google Doc or something like that.
Yeah, I love that whole like and I've looked back at like similarly, because like you said, your skills are, everybody's skills are different, right? So unless you're like me and you've been a consultant forever and you got paid to make PowerPoints, right? Like your PowerPoints aren't going to be great, but make sure the information's there, right? Like you said, when you're sharing it, to make sure that it's clear. People aren't going to, they know they're not going to Deloitte or E&Y or whoever when they're talking to you to get stuff done. They're not paying, which they're going to be, I think, at the same time happy about, because they don't want all that inflated cost. They just want the information, the knowledge. And somebody who's very direct, like me, when I was on the other side of the table and I would have, vendors and stuff come to me, I would immediately tell them, like, cut through all the bullshit. Like, I don't need the marketing and who the company is. I already know that. I'm here to talk about the product. Like, just get into it.
Yeah, just give me the information. Give me what I paid for, right?
Awesome. So let's see. We've got go for it. Don't think too long about it. Anything else you can think of that you kind of stumbled over, maybe, or
I think one of the big things, and this is just something that I've learned massively, and over time, and as I look back and how I am to where I am now, is if you're really serious about in the future building and a business or starting a business, do not neglect your network and the people around you, and your brand, and what, because I was really fortunate, right? So I was really fortunate that I had that to lean on. And so in the back of my mind, it was never as risky as maybe as I thought it was. Even though it was risky, I was like, well, hang on, I've got a really good network of people that I've nurtured and built over the last 7 or 8 years. Like in my head, I was kind of saying to myself, surely out of all of these relationships I've got in my phone book and on a notepad on LinkedIn, all of these people that I've networked with over the years, there's going to be someone in there that can help me in some way. And so I would say to anyone that's thinking about it, really think about that network that you've got. Think about, okay, we live in a 3-second world, right? How are people going to know who you are and what you're delivering, right? What's your I guess almost like a go-to-market strategy, but if you're bootstrapping, right? If you have you've not taken funding, you're doing it on your own. Because the most of the people I've worked with at the moment, what they're finding is that they get to a point where things like recommendations and referrals only go so far. And so it's like, okay, how do I now get more clients and more customers and the acquisition? And for me, I'm like, well, how much have you nurtured that network? How much are you really spending the time doing it? And because everyone says our networking is really important, but okay, well, sure it is, but like, what does that mean? What does that look like? And how do you do that? So I think, like, if you're thinking about it in, like, say your 12-month plan is to, okay, I want to start a business in a year. 12 months, like the next 12 months should be you focusing on just building a network of people you can rely on. Meet as many people as you can. Go absolutely crazy with just, messaging people, trying to connect with people. I think I did, I think in the first like 2 months, I connected with like over 100 people on like half-an-hour calls. I was just relentless, ruthless with it because that's what I had to do. I didn't have a choice. So I would definitely say do not neglect that network and actually take it really seriously, like take it dead serious as part of your business to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I applaud that. I wish I had like little buttons like the DJing. It's like, but yeah, because I had the same kind of experience. Like I had like years ago, like that's how I got, I don't want to say to where the reason I have the network I have now is because I needed to use it when I didn't nurture it. And then so when the time came to use it, it wasn't really there. Like having a bunch of connections on LinkedIn that you've never actually talked to because you met them one time, like, and then you send them a message like, hey, I'm looking to do this thing. That doesn't work, right? You have to put in the effort, and you need to, the other thing I would say too, that's pretty important, is having that getting that connection. I do the same thing now. Me, Mariana Padilla, like I think everybody knows who she is too. Like she's a big fan of virtual coffees. I will always, not always, but for the most part, if I try to meet with people, a couple different people every month, and have like a little chat and how, what do you do? How can I help? How do you get to know each other? I try to answer any DMs I can. Like you have to give. Like pretty much that's how it is. And the people don't realize, especially if you're starting a business, you're now in sales.
Yeah, you're
you can say you're not. I've had people that I've like coached, advised, whatever you want to call it, who are like, they're like, I need more sales and stuff, and they're kind of gruff and rough around the edge. And I was like, you're in sales now. You need to kind of be a little nicer.
and do you know what, Riz? This is really brutal, right? But I see this happen time and time again, is that people that don't nurture those relationships, and then suddenly, and it's, if you announce on LinkedIn you're starting a business, or you announce on LinkedIn that you're looking for work, but you've done no work in the background for those relationships and that network, that those are the people that are getting left behind. And I speak to people and it's really sad, and because you're absolutely right, like you need to give before you ask back, right? So if you don't spend any time nurturing a network, and you don't care about anyone else because you're employed and you're happy, and then suddenly you lose your job, and then you're saying, oh hi everyone, I'm now looking for work, and oh great, well all those other people that tried to connect you before that you palmed off and you weren't interested in and you ignored, well actually now you need their help. And like I think that's a bit of an eye-opener for a lot of people that maybe go through that, especially if you lose your job or you're thinking about starting a business, and then realizing, I've done no work with anyone. No one trusts me. No one knows who I am.
Yeah.
I'm now coming to the market asking for money or asking for a job. And it's like, yeah, but no one knows who you are. So like, yeah, who are you? And so think about it like that. Like if you lost your job tomorrow, or you started a business tomorrow, who are you turning to that's actually going to help you? And if you don't have that yet, I mean, obviously with a job loss, it's hard to control. But if you're thinking about starting a business tomorrow and you don't have anyone to turn to, one, is it a good time to start it? But two, how are you gonna nurture those relationships really, really quickly?
Yeah.
And that's such an important part.
It's tough. It's that whole, you have to act like you've got to give. You have to be giving information. People have to. I say this a lot. Like people don't realize how egocentric we are as humans, and that's it's not, when I say egocentric, it's not an arrogance thing. We all live in our own heads, and we just assume everybody else knows what we know. And I do this when I talk about career coaching too, for people. It's like, look, you're going to work every day and you're kicking ass. That's great. But like, and I know it sounds counterintuitive, but like, you have to make sure your boss knows that, or you have to make sure that you want to get promoted. That's great. You need to go tell somebody. Like, don't just assume you're going to do the work. If you want to find so when you're like, hey, I'm looking for a job, I'm an awesome PM or whatever, that's great. But if nobody else knows that, it doesn't have the networking or the capability to kind of like vouch for you, then it's all in your head.
Who else is, like, no one else is going to vouch and promote you, right? So you've got to do it yourself. And so I think that idea of like, you have to give, and it takes effort and time, right? Because naturally as human beings, we only care about ourselves. Like, that is that we have our own thoughts initially and what we want to achieve in our life, but actually going out there and going, right, I'm going to spend an hour of my time not expecting anything back from anyone, but just offering free value, free advice, connecting with people, saying, hey, how's things? Like, be good to catch up. Let's jump on a call. Like, no hard pitch or no hard sell from me. Just love to hear what you're doing. Like, how often are you actually doing that and really not expecting anything in return? Because
100%.
That's what you have to do, right? You have to just get yourself out there and get yourself in front of the right people, and just, like I say, expect nothing back.
Right. So speaking of shameless publicity, if everybody wants to find you on the interwebs, so you don't have the website, but where can people find you? And I'll put the link.
Anyone will find me on LinkedIn. I'm somewhat LinkedIn prolific, but I love LinkedIn for as much as it's filled with its cringy AI posts and generic leadership advice. I wouldn't be in the position I am without it. Every single penny I've generated in revenue has come from LinkedIn. So it's been a massive game changer for me in terms of, again, nurturing that network, really connecting with people, making sure I'm remembering conversations and things. So find me on LinkedIn. My name is Joe Head. You'll see me you might already know who I am. You might see my content already, which would be great. But yeah, you can DM me, message me on there. And there's two ways there's three ways, I guess, to get in contact. So I've got a newsletter, which it's called Founder Focus, which you can sign up to. You can book in an hour's call with me, or you can DM me. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, I'll put the links down and Joe, it's awesome talking to you, man. Appreciate your time, buddy.
Brilliant. Cheers. Nice one. Take care. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for enjoying Keyboard Samurai Podcast. If you'd like to engage, find Will on LinkedIn at /WillClue or visit at willclue.me. That's WILKLU.me for more info. Disconnecting now. Synac you later.